Hello everyone and welcome to the ZeroFunction Podcast where no brain cells are present. I am your host Genevieve and we have CONALL here today and we also have a brand new special guest.
Hello friendos.
So this is Lee and we have, I was going to say,
we were lazy and didn't do the research.
Pretty much. So, last week when we were filming, Lee came in and we were talking about what this episode would be about.
I gave them garlic bread.
Yeah, I mean...
It's pretty epic.
It provided us with food, so, of course we had to have him on the podcast. And you just, kind of, as soon as I said, I'm kind of thinking, serial killers, so you just ran with it and researched into the ground, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, both my partner and I consume a lot of true crime content, so this is, right up my alley.
And bread and butter.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not that much into true crime.
Really?
Crime. Yeah, I haven't really delved into it. I go into it a little bit, but nothing specific true crime. I haven't quite gone into that genre.
I think, yeah, mine's normally the ghost stories and things like that. Even if you can tell they're just stories, having that little on edge is more my thing. But I mean, like I said, like CONALL said, I did feel a little bit bad because I was supposed to do the research for this episode. This week was my week, but you know what? We have a special guest now, so I can just pass all the responsibility off to him.
Yeah, you know what? They're happy to do it.
Awesome. So what have you started with for us today?
Right, so my research story is an interesting one because when I was first offered the opportunity to come on the show, I was given the mandate to research murderers. That was the topic that CONALL had in mind for the next episode. Murderers, in general, is a very broad topic.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the best start to give you,
Yeah, no. So what I came up with after a bit of deliberation was a focus on serial killers. Mostly going over... Well, I chose 3... what we call heavy hitters, the most.
Is one of them Ted Bundy? Is that in there?
Well, we'll see.
Okay,
we'll see.
Keep the suspense going. Yeah.
Yeah. I decided, I'd first give a brief rundown on what makes a serial killer, the different types of classification and methods. Methodology and
damn, we might have to have you on every week. You've really gone into this.
I am happy to come back at any time.
Yeah, permanent guest star.
Yeah, but and then after that I would give another brief rundown on 3 different heavy hitters, maybe 4 if we had time. I figured I'd take maybe an hour, 2 at most to do all this research. 5 hours later on a Saturday night, I realised I'm only going to be covering 1.
Damn.
Yeah, that's about right. Last time I was like, oh yeah, I'll just look up a few paranormal UFO stuff, and then it was literally 1 article, and I was only halfway down the article, and we got through an hour. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think it's just the gift of the gab. You can just start spiraling from all these topics. It's not just oh yeah, that's it. That's how it is. It's
Wikipedia is dangerous. So many classroom hours lost to just random. Are we allowed to swear here?
Yeah.
Yes,
okay, cool. Yeah,
just so.
Random bullshit. You get in a Wikipedia hole, it is
especially when
not
they
easy
have,
to get back out.
Words and you're like, wait, what's that? And then you're like, oh, what's that? What's that?
Yeah.
And you just start clicking.
And then you never even found the initial piece of information you went looking for.
Yeah.
It's the whole lesson's gone. Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
Drat.
Yeah. Needless to say, my scores, my grades through most of high school were not abysmal. I scraped by, but yeah.
Same. Yeah, definitely same. I definitely wasn't the intellectual in the school. Yeah.
I was a mid-range,
Yeah.
Wasn't nothing too good.
Oh, sorry,
nothing
Mr.
too bad.
Excellences in English.
That was a fluke.
Yeah, no. I think I maintained a solid low merit grade.
Yeah.
So what we're talking B minus. I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
In England, the grades and real quick, just segue, but to get I think the lowest thing, a D, you have to get under 35%. like an A is still I think 92% plus.
Jeez.
And then A plus, and then like an A is from 92 to 82, I think. So like you can actually get relatively high grades relatively easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just generally don't understand how any of that works.
I mean, no, neither. I mean, there's so many YouTubers I hear talk about like A levels and things like that, and I was just like,
Yeah, it doesn't help that everyone has a different grading system. So
yeah. Oh man. But anyway, murderers.
yeah, right. So
from high school to murder.
The worst Lifetime movie.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, what I'm going to do for you today is just give you kind of a introduction to the concept of a serial killer, and then we'll cover one of the most notorious serial murderers in American history.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I suppose we should start with what is a serial killer.
Before you say your notes, because I feel like you've got really in-depth notes. What would you class as a serial killer? Talking to Connell here too.
Yeah, the person not who's speaking before. I feel like there would have to be a certain number of people who are killed, and maybe some form of identification as it to being that killer.
Yeah,
I would say.
So like they have to have like an edge, like a mark or something.
Yeah, like a mark.
Okay.
And they not necessarily have to have it. It may just be the way they murder that's identifiable. But yeah, maybe something like that.
And do you reckon like after they kill like 2 people, are they instantly a serial killer, or is that just like 2 minutes? Because what if they kill 2 people and that's it? Like, is that still a serial killer? Like, because they have done it twice, but
I think serial killers usually go into the court, do they? I'm not quite
You're
sure.
asking the wrong person here. You know who we should ask?
Yeah, I mean, you both got pretty close to some of the points. So yeah, most legal authorities around the world classify a serial killer as someone who murders more than 3 people, or 3 or more people, over a period of a month or more, with a significant period of time in between the murders. And some authorities classify them between 2 to 4 murders, but most agree on the number of 3. Yeah.
But like, so if someone killed one person and then like 5 years later killed another one, and then like 10 years later killed another, is that still like? Because that's a very big.
I think it still counts.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some research on that.
Yeah, go back into that because I mean, they still killed like 3 people, but like I feel like there's enough time between. Like it sounds bad to say, but there's enough time between to be like
Yeah, and I mean there are definitely cases where a serial murderer has performed their crimes over the course of decades.
Yeah.
Not very often, but it does happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose you could call that a serial killer. Yeah. I suppose that would count.
I would think so. Yeah. It's like still killing people.
I mean, you got me there.
You're not really changing anything. It's just the period of time is just longer.
Yeah.
It's not much a difference. I mean, it would seem more intense if it's within like a month.
Yeah. When you said like a month or more, I was like, what?
It's a month and you just like slaughtered like 5 people. The police like, oh shit. You'd really be in a panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the term serial homicide was it's commonly attributed to FBI Special Agent Robert Ressler, who. Now this is the first English language use of the term. He coined it in a lecture that he gave at the Police Staff Academy in Hampshire, in the UK. But they already had a term for it in German. This term, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation. Serienmörder. I think that's probably how you say it.
Accurate attempt to me.
Yeah, serial murderer.
Yeah.
And it was coined by criminologist Ernst Gnat. Yeah, again, foreign words.
You should have heard me trying to say moldy words last week.
Oh, jeez.
yeah,
I can
it's bad.
multi words. Yeah, I can do that. No problem.
some of these ones, I was looking at them too, and I was like,
These places don't
But yeah,
exist.
yeah, and this was in 1930, and he was in this particular instance referring to a serial killer, the serial killer Peter Kürten, who is also known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, or the Dusseldorf Monster.
that's a
pretty
fact to
epic
follow,
name.
yeah.
And you can probably imagine, what he was best known for.
Was he like one of the
Yeah.
first serial killers, or was he just someone that they
He's
when the term was coined?
yeah, he's definitely one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
Very
He
infamous, I'm assuming.
he performed a series of murders and sexual assaults between February and November 1929. And
Mind
yet,
you, I guess in the 1800s, people were just beheading people, so it's.
Yeah.
There probably were a lot more serial killers, but it was more public knowledge then because they were just like, nah,
They were just-
criminal.
They were
Yeah.
just nobles.
yeah.
well, I
that point.
believe, I could be wrong. I think he was executed in 1930. Could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
It did pop up in my research, but I didn't note it down. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, and then in America, the term was first popularized. It first came into the public zeitgeist in 1981 when the New York Times described Wayne Williams as a serial killer. And I didn't actually do any.
I know that name.
I don't.
I didn't actually do any research on Williams, which I realise now is kind of a
at all.
the. Yeah.
That's
So so that's where the term came from. As for a history of serial killers, there's a common theory amongst some criminologists that, and this was a particular proponent of this theory was Dr. Louis B. Schlesinger, who was a professor of psychology at John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York City. And in his book, Serial Offenders, Current Thoughts, Recent Findings, he suggested that the werewolf and vampire legends of centuries past were actually inspired by medieval serial killers.
That-
Yeah.
yeah, that would actually make sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting because until, I want to say, the late 60s, even into the 70s, law enforcement and the public at large didn't really have a concept of a serial killer. This is
Right.
specifically in the USA, because statistically speaking, the majority of murders are committed by people close to the victim, family
Yeah, I
members,
saw that
close
it's
friends.
70% or something.
Yeah.
Of murders are done by friends and family or
Yes.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, so you're a lot less likely to be murdered by a stranger than by a friend or family member. And at that time, the idea that someone could kill multiple people who they weren't related to, didn't have anything to do with, it's just random. They didn't really ever consider that.
Yeah. Also, apparently, I don't know how accurate this fact is, but apparently, you walk past a murderer 43 times or something in your lifetime.
That would not surprise me. Yeah.
That's not very comforting.
Yeah.
I mean, that may be.
You know what is comforting? You walk past that many, and none of them chose to murder you.
Well,
I mean, I would think that's a uniquely American statistic, unless
Yeah, probably, but
maybe just
I don't think
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
there's so many
in
more,
New Zealand I'd be quite
there's so many
worried.
more deaths over there just through murder.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean,
So violent.
the majority of serial killers in the 20th century are from America. So
Nice, what a surprise.
I was about to say, why do you think that is? Because it's a bigger landmass, so there's just because if you divided if you look at the size of New Zealand or England or whatever, and you put that into America, would that lower the stats? Is it just because it's so big the stats seem ridiculous?
I mean,
Well,
look, we
the firearm laws don't help.
no, and I mean we could get political with it. I think it's a lot of it has to do with an attitude towards mental health.
Yeah.
Because as we'll see, mental health plays into a lot of behavioural.
I mean, even
Yeah.
even though this is a movie, if you've seen the Joker movie, the new one, they're just going sorry, we can't really help you, and everyone's just kind of treating him like, oh, he's just a special guy.
Yeah, and especially in the 80s when that film was set, mental health was mental health care was not I mean, even today you could argue it's not really where it should be, but
Yeah.
a lot of serial killers do have. I'm trying to think of a better term than mental handicaps, but it really
have,
is.
like either past traumas or things like that.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's
just something that
exactly.
snapped. That's just gone.
But that's the thing. When they do snap, they're like, "Oh, this guy's psycho," and it's just like, "Well, actually, if you look into why,
He was decently normal before until
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, and see, the majority of serial killers these days that we hear about are from the US, but the person, I say person because we don't know who it was, the person who is considered to be the first modern serial killer was Jack the Ripper from jolly old London, who in 1888 killed 5 victims in what's known as the Whitechapel murders, and these were brutal fucking just slaughters.
Again, I've heard of this, but I've never looked at, because I feel like when I did hear about this, I was like young, so I didn't look into them, and then I kind of forgot about them. Like, I remember something about that, but do you have research on this one, or is that just like a?
Hey?
I said, do you have like further research on this one?
I mean, I know a little bit about it. Every now and then it kind of pops up in popular discussion and all that.
Wait, so
but
did you say Jack the Ripper? They don't know who he was.
No, we have no idea, because obviously this was 1888. Victorian London. Most of the victims were prostitutes, if not all of them, I think. So yeah, there was this undercurrent in reporting on it of this, idea of these, real lowest of the low class women being slaughtered amidst the wealth of London, as it was referred to. And this caused massive international media attention. We'd not seen anything like this before.
Wait, do you know how many women there were? Or?
5 murders.
5, yeah, sorry, I was just missed that bit. Damn, because I guess it sounds kind of bad, but I guess they would be sort of the easier targets because nobody is really looking out for them. It's not like the normal woman on her way home to from work or whatever.
You could just call them to a hotel and have everything set up, escape route and everything.
Yeah.
Just bam, done.
Yeah, and there's definitely there are suspects and evidence, but there's no.
But I guess it wouldn't be a thing because when you call a prostitute, I guess they don't really I mean, I wouldn't know, but they don't really keep tracks of Simon's gone and called someone over this. I don't think they really keep.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. That's the thing that you see with a lot of not just serial killers, but murderers in general. Is that prostitutes are often targets because they're easy targets. They're far more likely than a regular member of the public to go off alone with a stranger.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. It sucks, but they are a preferred target, or they tend to be.
Yeah.
So you guys did touch on some of the reasons behind the why someone would become a serial killer. Things like emotional, physical, or sexual abuse by a family member. There's things like there's a thing called the McDonald Triad, which is a set of set of 3 behavioral predictors that can be seen in early childhood to adolescence, and those are a proclivity for fire setting, like a fascination with fires and sadistic activity, which often in younger children is manifests as torturing animals.
Yeah.
Pulling the legs off spiders, dissecting rats or
birds
whatever.
and things like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely a early sign.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And the third one is a tendency to wet the bed beyond age 12. And over 60% of serial killers, that we know of, exhibit this trait, and pretty much all of them exhibit at least one of them.
I was about to say, do you know why that last one is part of anything?
It probably has something to do with again abuse,
Yeah.
and that can feed into feelings of powerlessness or inadequacy later in life.
Yeah.
That's a big part of the psychology behind a lot of serial killers.
Yeah, I guess if you went into bed, it might be something along the lines of like you just don't really care anymore, or you don't want to like try something along those lines.
I can see that as well.
Yeah. And there's other things that can point towards, murderous tendencies, like being involved in petty crime, theft, vandalism, being bullied as a child, and having an average or low average IQ. But oftentimes, a serial killer with an average or low IQ will be perceived as above average, purely due to, having psychopathic tendencies like a lack of empathy, being overly bold, manipulative. They can be prone to violence or acts of impulse. Those are all standard psychopathic tendencies that you'll see in a lot of serial killers, especially the one that we're going to cover in a little bit. But there was a study done on incarcerated serial killers, which was documented in a book called The Serial Killers, A Study in the Psychology of Violence. It was published in 1992 by true crime writers Colin Wilson and Donald Seaman, which found that almost all of the serial killers in the study had childhood environmental problems. Stuff like lack of parental figures, divorced parents, parents with a drug problem, general broken home kind of stuff. Because especially in the case of a parent with a drug problem, all the attention from friends and extended family will be on that parent, and the child will be getting less attention. So, they've been neglected as a child.
Even so, as well, when if someone's like, oh yeah, such and such's parents is on drugs, it's like
wouldn't be able to bring friends over to the house or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
which is such an important part of growing up. It's just being able to go around to your mates or having that support system and things like that.
Yeah, just generally not getting the attention that they need to develop properly, emotionally and psychologically.
Slight segue as well. There. You know how people say the weather can affect their moods and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the theory of people being born a certain time of year? 'Cause apparently Pisces.
Hold on. Right. I was about to say. I was like, what are you on about?
Is this where this is going?
Pisces are more like that's the most common serial killer. Is that because they're
talking shit?
I'm coming at you, Connell.
For context, Connell is a Pisces.
Yeah.
I'm a murderer, apparently.
Is that because they're born I don't know, because being born from age 1, I guess it's not really that susceptible. But
did we ever explain who I am to you guys? I'm Connell's brother, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, we didn't. We just went.
Yeah. So if you're having trouble telling us apart, that's why.
Oh, I doubt it. I think our voices are quite different.
I don't know.
On mic, probably not. But also, he's doing all the talking. You're just kind of
Yeah, I'm just here this time.
I mean, I know that I sound almost identical to our other brother. So, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people say it's is that because they're going into winter, and a lot of people have that winter. No, I'm serious.
Are you trying to prove that I'm a serial killer?
Yes. But no, a lot of people say winter puts their moods down and things like that. Do you think that's just complete and utter?
No. Seasonal depression is a documented psychological phenomenon. A lot of people, because obviously is. Hours of darkness are increasing, and it's colder. People are spending a lot more time inside, isolated. Especially for folks who tend towards extroversion, that can be especially psychologically affecting.
Because I definitely think not majorly, but I definitely think I have that because I'm born in January. So summer I always thrive because I love summer, but then also it's my birthday. Whoa,
we're all summer babies, huh?
Yeah. But you can go out into the beach. Or actually, that's Pisces going into autumn here, isn't it? But what's it in America? Is that winter?
Yeah, because it's reversed on the hemispheres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you're not you were born here. It's okay.
I'm fine. I'm not a serial killer, obviously.
Oh god, I was born in London.
I dodged that bullet, I guess.
Oh man, but yeah. So I definitely am thriving in summer. So do you think they kind of it's winter?
I don't know.
It's entirely possible that it plays into it. Just in my research on this one specific guy,
Was he
I
born in
didn't-
winter?
actually, let me see.
Oh, he's going. Oh god, that's a lot of notes.
November. Yes, that's coming into winter. Yeah.
In New Zealand? No, it's coming out of
North,
winter in New Zealand.
USA, Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Going into winter, November. Yeah.
Are you aware
Oh,
that it's
okay.
November right now?
Yeah. Oh, we're in spring at the moment, aren't we?
Summer.
Yes.
No,
No.
summer's December, January, February.
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Summer.
thought we'd
Summer is
already
next month.
entered summer.
I think I blew out
I
the
mean,
mic. Ugh.
summer's coming early this year, not gonna lie.
Summer's coming early every year.
All right. Yeah. So, bleh. Where am
Find
I?
your place in the notes, sorry.
Yeah,
I feel like add a little segue.
Seriously, my brain is fried just from research. Like,
Yeah.
just, the stuff is.
It's so
it's-
interesting though. Like that's what you go down that like rabbit hole. You're like, I don't want to research anymore, but like I want to research more because like there's more stuff here and there's more stuff there, and you just
Yeah.
like, click and
Yeah. And I mean, it gets intense later on. So,
especially those ones that don't have an end. You're like trying to like find the end. You're like, oh no, I just have to keep going. I just have to research more.
yeah. But, so there's a bunch of different types of serial killers.
Types.
Yeah.
There were types.
Yeah, well, they differ in methodology and.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at like the Zodiac Killer or I can't think of the.
Yeah, obviously they're classified into fighter, ranger, rogue, mage. Yeah, obviously. That's how it works.
Oh, dear. Well, yeah, no. What we see is
Shut.
a classification system that divides them into organized, disorganized, and mixed killers.
Bro, I'd be such a disorganized murderer. I'd like do something and I'd be like, oh shit, I forgot to cover this. Like,
Yeah. Well, the first type, organized. These guys are, methodical. They plan everything out. These murders often involve abductions. Again, especially prostitutes, because again they're easy targets. Some of these guys have knowledge of forensic science. They follow the reporting on their crimes, and they tend to maintain a high degree of control over the crime scene.
So
You know-
they're the terrifying people.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. These guys. Well, I mean, all of them are scary in their own way. But yeah, these
But
guys.
somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, the calculated.
That's the thing, though,
Killer.
like, these
The-
people put like time into murders. Like people like dig out bunkers and like all sorts of things. And you're like, how did nothing in your brain go? You know what? Maybe I shouldn't.
Now, remember, these guys are, to put it crudely, not right in the head.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
crossed the line.
There's no going back.
They've crossed many lines. Yeah, these organized killers, they tend to have higher IQs, with a mean of 94.7, depending on, the situation, various psychological factors. And that puts them around normal range. For reference, in the general population, an IQ of 80 to 89 is considered low average. 90 to 110 is average. 111 to 120 is high average, and 121 to 130 is considered superior.
See, I did an IQ test and I got 115, and I think that's complete and utter shit. I was like, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't know how the IQ test really works, honestly.
It's just general, aptitude for problem solving and logical, critical thinking kind of stuff.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
ain't me.
So these organized killers tend to be, in the normal range, kind of on the lower end. Obviously, a lot of serial killers are. Then you have disorganized killers. These guys tend to be impulsive. There's excessive violence in their crimes, usually sexual violence, sometimes involving necrophilia. They tend to use, they sometimes use random weapons, whatever they can find at the crime scene. Because again, they tend to be impulsive. They don't plan these things out. And they don't usually attempt to hide the bodies. And these guys are the most likely to have a history of mental illness.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll see, as a serial killer's career progresses, that they will... an organized killer can devolve into a disorganized killer, which is something we're going to see with the guy that we cover today. But yeah, and then a mixed killer is someone who exhibits varying tendencies from both classifications. So, some of their crimes might be highly planned out, but they also might give in to impulses to just murder someone on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know if their mental state. They could just.
Someone could
Go at it.
just piss them off in the parking lot or whatever, and they're like, you know what, it's your time.
Yeah, and as well as that, there's another set of classifications, and these ones are they help to explain the motives or reasons behind the crimes, and these are visionary, mission-oriented, hedonistic, and power control. So visionary killers tend to have psychotic breaks with reality. They're like seriously mentally ill, and they often have delusions of. They believe that someone is telling them to kill.
Yes.
They're in like a wet dream state, sort of. They're not really connected to what they're doing.
Kinda, yeah. Well, the visionary killers are broken into two subgroups. There's demon-mandated and God-mandated. So, yeah, if that gives you any kind of insight into what's going on in these guys' heads. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, obviously it's not always going to literally be a quote-unquote demon or God, telling them what to do. But
Something along those lines.
yeah, it's a general way to classify them, really. Mission-oriented killers often see themselves as ridding the world of undesirables. People like homosexuals, prostitutes, criminals, the homeless, other races or religions.
Oh.
Yeah. An example of this is the Manson family. You guys might have heard of them, Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've seen, have you guys seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Tarantino film?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay. Well, for the listeners, that film presents, near the end, it has a heavily fictionalized account of the Sharon Tate murders. Now, that's a whole thing that we can go to. I would love to do an episode on the Manson family.
Yeah.
Or maybe multiple episodes, because there's a lot there. I won't spoil the film for you guys. But yeah, that's... the Manson family, basically they were a commune of hippie types led by this neo-Nazi white supremacist Charles Manson, one of the more famous criminal figures in the 20th century. I can speak, I promise.
It's okay, we can't.
Oh, well, I mean, I wasn't going to say anything,
I'm
but
the worst one in this room.
Flub City up in here. Yeah. I was just being polite. And these guys killed a bunch of rich white people, and their intent was to start a race war between black and white folk. Whereupon, once the black race won, I hope the way that I'm saying that implies that I don't believe in any of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
Quoted.
I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can.
Yeah.
With this utterly horrendous subject matter. It's not easy, but and they intended to hide out in the desert in California, and then come out once all the white people had been killed off, and teach the blacks how to rule, because they didn't think that they had the mental capacity to govern themselves.
Jesus.
Yeah, some really fucked up shit.
And what year was this?
This was the late 70s. I don't know the exact year, but Manson. Actually, the entire thing took place over a period of about, I want to say 9 or 10 months, which is really surprising given the amount of stuff that they got done in that time. Again, I would love to cover this in another episode, but we do have to keep moving because there's a lot to get through.
For the listeners, like this video,
Yeah.
if you want to see that.
This episode might run a bit longer than you guys were intending.
Oh,
but,
no, it's all
It
good.
may be a part one.
yeah,
be honest.
I mean, yeah, I'm fine with that. So the next type is a hedonistic killer. And these guys derive pleasure from their killing. And again, that's divided into subgroups. There's 3 of them. There's lust, thrill, and comfort. Lust and thrill, pretty self-explanatory. Comfort killers, these guys often killing for material gain. Maybe they're born into not so great circumstances and want to, just make some money.
Yeah.
And
Is that more like hitmen or just people targeting like rich people?
Yeah, I guess just targeting rich people. Yeah, contract killers are a whole different breed of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just like money.
Again, we could do an entire episode on it. There is so much under the umbrella of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who
murderers.
just kill.
Yeah,
For some reason.
we could
Delve into all sorts of things like that.
we could spend years covering all of this stuff.
Honestly, yeah, like when we told you, like, oh yeah, just cover like murderers and things like that. Like at first, it seemed like a pretty, like.
You had
topic.
no idea. Yeah, and an example of a comfort killer was H.H. Holmes, who was truly fucked up. I'm not even going to go into what this guy did. You can look him up if you want. He's just thinking about him and what he did is. But yeah, he made some insurance and business profits from his murders. Again, we could cover him. I'd rather not think about him too much at the moment because this guy is just real monster.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And the last type is power or control killers, and this plays into the guy that we're going to talk about in a minute. These are the ones that are often abused as children, and as a result, they feel powerless or have feelings of inadequacy as an adult. They're often they often sexually abuse their victims, but this is more motivated by power than lust. So they're not really doing it for sexual gratification. They're doing it to, feel power and control
be the dominant,
over someone.
Right,
Yeah. And in some cases, there can be media influences in a killer's reasoning. Peter Curtin, the vampire of Dusseldorf, he idolized Jack the Ripper.
Oh.
That was like, about 40 years before he was active?
Yeah.
Maybe a little less. And some just want to be famous. Especially in the 20th century, with the rise of television and.
They knew they were going to be like actors or something. They're like, I want to be seen. I want people to know my name. This will get me seen.
Yeah, maybe some.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
People as kids, like if they are going through that abuse or whatever along those lines, maybe they start idolizing those people at that age.
Yeah.
Feeds into it as they grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they see them more as this like powerful, like nobody took shit from this person.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah, and there are definitely some cases where that has happened, where a serial killer or just a murderer in general has taken influence from that.
Yeah.
I think it's more common in other types of homicide, like spree killings.
Yeah.
Because those are often widely reported on, especially in the 21st century. So there's people who will take influence from that. And
I mean, there's no reason why they wouldn't, because I mean, look how we take influence from actors, movie stars, or whatever.
Yeah.
Even like YouTubers, like we look up to whoever.
I mean, here you are doing a podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like obviously you've probably you probably have influences from somewhere.
Oh
that,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I have other people that I watch that do podcasts, and I was like, you know what, I really want to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So why couldn't people idolize people that did stuff not so great?
Not so great. That's
Yeah.
a lot of putting it.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some light murdering, just a touch.
Just a sprinkle of homicide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Yeah. So.
Wait, is this next part going into who we're talking about?
Yes. This is
Alright,
the meat of the episode.
Before you tell us, I reckon it's Ted Bundy. I said that at the beginning because also talking about like the influence of power and all that sort of stuff. Who do you think we're going to be covering?
I'll be honest, I don't know serial killers. I'll be honest, I just don't.
I also thought it could be
Really?
the Zodiac Killer, but I'm more
See, I don't
leaning towards
I don't
Ted
even know
Bundy.
who the Zodiac Killer really is. I just
No
know,
one knows who he is.
Oh boy, we could go into that.
I just know the
Yeah.
name, and I'm like, okay, that's a person who's murdering people.
I mean, did he just murdered a lot of people, didn't he? There's
Zodiac.
Yeah. Did he leave marks and things like that?
He was well.
Zodiac?
I say he, but obviously we don't know who
Yeah.
the Zodiac is.
Yeah.
It's a fair assumption, though, to be a he.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he was on my shortlist to research, but obviously got cut for time. But yeah, no, I would be fascinated to delve into that
To be
and
fair,
do an episode
I
in the
don't
future.
think I could name a female serial killer.
No,
They are rare.
Yeah.
They happen. I think it's something like, I want to say 14%, I think
Yeah.
was the statistic I found.
I think-
Bleh.
Yeah,
If my
I don't
tongue
think
will
it's
start
because, females are more stable or whatever. I think it's just genuinely because if you are going to, overpower someone, just from a biological sense.
Yeah, there's definitely a
men
physical
are
element to
a
it,
lot,
yeah.
stronger than women, just from a biological sense. So I feel like if you were a female being a serial killer, you'd have to train.
Or maybe
There's-
poison people or something.
Yeah, I get you, they're all-
Be a lot more.
You'd either have to
Yeah.
be super cunning.
Yeah, and I mean,
Or,
historically, poison was considered a woman's weapon.
Yeah.
In centuries past. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to be real sly.
But no, there definitely are cases of female serial killers.
Yeah.
More commonly, they work in tandem with a man.
Yeah.
A pretty famous example is Fred and Rosemary West.
I was gonna say, what's it?
Yeah,
Bonnie and Clyde. Is that?
Bonnie and Clyde. I think they were
They weren't murderers.
No.
I'm just saying, working in tandem.
just general
Yeah.
criminals,
Yeah.
thieves. Yeah, Fred and Rosemary West. They were a couple in England. I forget exactly where, but they abducted and murdered a series of school children, I believe.
Yeah. Is
It's also called the Moors murders. If you, if any British listeners have heard of that,
Because I swear I've seen a movie like this.
probably. Yeah.
This guy would the woman would be like, oh, I need help or whatever, and then the guy would abduct the person. But he used to do it because he'd sleep with the victims or whatever, and his wife was just kind of like, that's his kink. Good, but she also didn't want to leave because she was like, well, what if he does that stuff to me? So she kind of was just had to help.
Oh. That's a bit.
Yeah, there's a movie on that.
Oops.
I don't remember.
Drop
what
my
it's
notes.
called, but
Well, I mean, most serial killers will be immortalized, as it were, in film or TV or documentary form at some point.
Yeah. So that's the thing, the
Yeah.
films and things like that, they are interesting, but I feel like it just gives too much power to the person. They're because if they're one of those people that thrives off media and things like that, they're like, ha, look at. I mean, most of the people that movies were made about, they're dead by the time the movies come out.
Yeah, I mean, Western audiences in particular have a fascination with true crime stuff, especially serial killers,
Yeah.
and it is really a uniquely Western phenomenon.
Yeah.
We don't really see a lot of reports of serial killers coming out of Eastern or African countries. Either because they just don't report on it, or because it's a uniquely Western psychological phenomenon. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know where it counts because what about gangs and stuff? Because gangs will just kill people, and do they become counted as serial killers and stuff?
No, I wouldn't think so. I think gang murders definitely come under a different category, unless you have a serial killer who happens to be a gang member.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure has happened. I don't have any specific examples, but I mean, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, being involved in criminal activity, it's
Yeah, so maybe that's more prevalent in other countries other than America.
it's possible. Yeah.
Serial killers will be in gangs, but not.
I mean,
counted as
they would
serial
also
killers.
protect the gang. If you've got a serial killer in your gang, nobody's gonna come at you, and if they do, they'd just be like, well,
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, send them off.
yeah.
Yeah. But
you know what you got to do.
yeah. So you guys, you're on the right track. You named some, fairly famous heavy hitters.
Yeah.
The others on my shortlist were Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy, who are pretty notorious. Ed
I've heard the name of the second one, not the first one.
John Wayne Gacy, yeah, he murdered, he raped and murdered something like 13 teenage boys and buried them in the crawl space underneath his house. Yeah.
He happened to be a priest.
No, he was
No.
Sorry, I had to go there.
he was a local politician and professional clown.
That's just not a good combo.
I want you to, and listeners, I want you to do this as well. Look up Pogo the Clown, Pogo, and he's
That I've heard of.
Yeah, Gacy is probably the reason that people are afraid of clowns, because it's
Honestly,
I wouldn't be surprised.
it's not. Yeah, actually, I'll pull up a picture of this guy.
Like, yeah, because that's the thing. When you look at, like, clown masks, like, normally they have those, like, happy faces, but those horrifying ones where they've got, like, the big sad mouths and, like, the really, like, weird...
Yeah, this is Pogo the Clown.
Ah!
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
He
It's
doesn't...
terrifying.
So even though he's got a happy face painted on, he doesn't look friendly.
No,
Like,
no.
he looks like he could kill you. He looks like he'd have that, like, you know that, like, carnival music in the background? The, like,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, that's
It's
Calliope.
like
Yeah.
Pennywise is just uncle or something.
I'm sorry, but are those all your tabs that are open?
Yeah, don't judge me.
It's one of those.
There are reasons.
Okay.
I have reasons.
I've seen people with, like, 10 tabs open, but you've got, like, 30 tabs open.
Yeah, I probably need to close some of them, but
I literally close my tabs like every
Yeah.
10 minutes, I swear. Unless I'm watching a video or something, I'm like, I don't need this tab anymore.
Yeah.
I have my reasons.
Oh, really?
Fair enough.
Yours is not to wonder why. Yeah, so, but yeah, you pretty much guessed it. Today we are going to be covering possibly the most famous serial killer in history. And what better way to, send the podcast off with a bang than with Ted Bundy.
I'm a genius. I'm sorry, that probably, like, clipped the mic.
Yo, my ears.
Yeah, I'm thinking this might have to be a part 2.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes,
I'll try
definitely part two.
I'll try get
I
through.
mean, we can go over an hour. It's not a huge deal.
I
Yeah.
mean, we'll see how this... We'll go through this, and then we'll, like, clip it at the end. And we'll see whether this is a part 2. But, if it is a part 2,
I mean, yeah,
we'll end it here. And we'll say, check out part 2 when it's out. If this doesn't get clipped, I guess, yeah, this is all just a waste of time.
I
We'll
mean-
just continue.
I have more notes on Bundy than I do on just general serial killer stuff. So, yeah,
So, part 2 will be out. I mean, I'll post them both together anyway, just because, so they don't have to wait, but...
okay.
Can we pause the audio, though? Or do you have to, like, stop
It's
it?
fine. It could just get cut.
No, I need to go to the bathroom.
Thanks for sharing.
I'll cut this bit out, it's okay.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna end this episode here.
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
That's great. We'll see you with a part 2. Probably right. Actual Ted Bundy this time. After Lee saying, "We'll talk about it in a minute" for the 5th time, but we didn't actually talk about it in a minute.
Oh, honestly, yeah.
50 minutes later, we didn't actually get to it. But
It's okay, because in this episode, we covered what a serial killer is, the different types of serial killers, covered some other famous serial killers as well. So I feel like we covered enough stuff that it doesn't matter that we didn't get to, like, the main beef for the story, because...
It's alright.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's plenty of beef to get to.
Beef.
Stay tuned.
La beef.
Go to the toilet. Alright.
Bye.